guys, how are you all doing? I hope you're doing really well. Welcome back to my channel, my lovely LEGO addicts. It is time for another review, which has been a while since I've done one. And we're going to be talking today about the old build for the 3-in-1 medieval castle that LEGO released. The 3-in-1 LEGO medieval castle retails for £90, and the wonderful and very talented Brickative, links below, created this really intriguing and interesting and delightful old build for it. He actually created two, but this one was my favourite. I think we need to kind of all take a moment to appreciate people that do rebrickable like instructions for old builds, because old builds give you such a difficult restriction on parts, especially creating something totally new and completely different function from it. It's really difficult, and obviously you are not free to choose whatever element works best, so you really have to just work with what you've got, but it creates some really cool buildings and some creative concepts that you probably wouldn't get otherwise. Also, I just wanted to point out that this build is the build with the additional parts, but actually when you go to his page, you can do this old build without additional parts as well. So he has versions available where you don't use any additional parts, and you have a version where you do use additional parts. That is the one I've built. I wanted to kind of have the slightly smoother focus. I'm still missing 4 brick. It isn't entirely finished, but I think it's finished enough that we can review it because I want to talk about it, thank you! So as you know, I have a weakness for old builds. I think they're so creative, so much fun. I've obviously done the pub old build for the corner garage. I've done European Jazz Cafe for the Assembly Square set. Have I done anything else? I'm planning another one for the police station. So I've done various old builds, so I'm kind of familiar with them. And I remember first getting into them and I was just so blown away by it. Genuinely got me so excited. It's such a creative concept, and I really love to see what people create from existing sets. Now, this is no exception, and actually I think this building is incredible. This is a modular created from a 3-in-1 set that is a castle, so that just blows my mind. The other ones that I've done so far have always been modular sets into different modulars, so the fact that this is the opposite of that and is basically a castle set into a modular, I am just blown away by, and honestly I think it's fantastic looking. I was drawn to this before even realising it was an old build of something, and knowing that only made me more excited. So I think when we do look closer at the facade of this building, we do get to kind of see, oh, okay, yeah, like there is definitely some parts being used here that maybe if you were building with unlimited bricks at your disposal, you wouldn't necessarily choose. You probably go for a slightly different window box detail here. Not quite this. You probably would go for slightly different like detailing here. Not that it doesn't look nice, but it would probably be slightly different. Also, you probably would go for a few different colours. You probably wouldn't use sand blue here at the bottom. That'd probably be slightly more cohesiveness in colours. And actually the main thing, I suppose, that I want to point out is you would probably change the detail on the floor here. That probably leads me to my first bit of criticism. Even though I feel criticism is too strong a term for this, I am not a fan of the sort of patchwork look of the street in front. I appreciate that obviously he didn't have the elements to create the modular looking street. That is totally fine by me. It's just not something I'm super much of a fan of. I think it could work with the sort of Victorian element that this build could be. Like, it could definitely sit like in a Victorian modular city. However, I just do not like the patchwork, and I definitely will be updating that into a sort of similar street as you see on the modulars, just so it can blend in with my city. I think it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Like, I don't love the look of it, but I like that he did it just because it does make the build feel more finished. I think this tree design is really effective and actually really pretty, and actually prettier than the tree designs that we saw in the actual set. So I think you have to give him huge kudos for that, just because we've actually seen worse tree designs in modulars. So I just really needed to point out it was a little bit tricky to put together, but it looks really nice. I think the part use in this set is just phenomenal. I really like the way that you use the chain here at the front to create that detail. It's very creative. I like the beam detail here. I like that we still use that shield for extra detail, and absolutely my favourite bit is the yellow use here for that sort of like real impact colour. I think it looks phenomenal. I think it's a really interesting use of parts here as well, with the Technic elements to create like sort of like the facade detail, but also support for the roof like line. Then I think something that you would never come across in an actual modular is actually the fact that this is using a door, but because of the detail around the door is actually narrower. So I think it's very effective for this build. I definitely think if you're just using a door, which is effectively the whole width of that building, it feels really odd. But yeah, it's definitely something that you wouldn't normally come across. And then another proof of the fact that he was limited in parts is that we're using some olive green here and then some different random colours just down here. I don't think that's a problem. I think it looks fine. I may change some of these elements when I am updating it to add it to my city, but I do think it is really, really very effective. I actually really like this design above this window. I think it creates such a really nice detail, and overall I'm such a huge fan of this building. It is beautiful. I really like all the windows with the gold lattice that he used here to create this window. And this is obviously slightly different. You can see on the sides you have a bit of a selection of random parts, but then that's only to be expected. I don't think that really matters. You're not really going to be seeing it. But here is the back, and the back is a bit more of a patchwork even than the front, considering like the detail on the flooring. But we're obviously seeing slightly more creative part using colours used here. I'm personally not a huge fan of every single thing here. However, with the limits that we obviously do have on the set, it is understandable. I like that this roof sort of like blends into this little balcony. I like the use of these windows for a balcony. I think it's really creative. It's a very different use. Here you can see the change if you're using additional parts. These windows are the additional parts. If you're not using the additional parts, these will just be panels. But I think the window obviously does make it much more interesting. And you're just about able to peep inside, and actually inside that room is like a treasure room. I think my favourite detail at the back here is how they created this sort of like wooden detail at the back to support the roof. I think the colours used and the part used there is really creative and really beautiful looking, and actually creates a really interesting polished look and not something that you see a lot. It doesn't feel like it's compromising on anything there. My least favourite thing I think from the back here is this part used for this door that pretends to be there, because both the stairs to the door and the door itself feel very unfinished, because you can see the studs in the back of the plate. And also I'm not a huge fan of this canopy. I think it's partially just to make sure that this all fits together, but I just don't really like the look of it. I think I'm gonna probably get rid of it, but obviously I left it here just to kind of show you guys. There isn't really any use for it. I think it's probably my least favourite bit of this building. And then we can go into the interiors. So it is modular, so it does mean that you can take the sides off. So here we go. They actually remove quite easily. Though with this yellow one especially, you can see that it's actually pretty fragile, which is pretty understandable, and that's not a criticism that I'm going to like take with me or anything, but just be careful when you are building this. You're probably going to be building some things twice or three times because you accidentally broke it when you're trying to attach it. The modularity of this build is actually not that important for the ground floor, but you can just see inside for a moment. There's a little stairway in this side, and then you can just look into the blacksmith's shop, which is actually open to the air. What was really interesting though is, because this is a really narrow build, it's on a 16 by 32 base plate, but he has sort of like a really narrow and a bigger build. The sides of these are open, so when you connect them, technically a minifigure could walk between the two to use this building with the stairs in to actually get to this floor. And then the only real nice interior that this set has is this building itself, which actually is really fun. So let me open up. There is some hinges that open this side up so you can actually look inside. One of these, there's only two hinges, even though there pretends to be a third one, there is nothing inside. Just because you're using that hinge thing in front to create the flower pot. But yeah, so inside there is this interior of the treasure chest. You've got the skeleton hanging, the banner, and a little lounge chair. I think it's a really effective way of using that interior, and also it's really fun that the skeleton moves. I genuinely think this is really genius and a really great way to use the parts. And also, as you can see behind the skeleton on either side of the window, actually you use lots of those light bluish grey round elements to create a different colour interior, and I think that's so nice. It uses more parts but also really creates a more polished interior look. And then that's kind of mostly it interior wise, but I did just really quickly want to point out this really awesome chimney selection build thing. It is a bit unstable and it looks a bit weird when it's not attached, but I love that you're using like that chest piece for the top of the chimney. I just thought that was ingenious and it made me very happy. So So overall, I really think this is such a great build and a lovely addition for any city. I really recommend, if you do have the 3-in-1 castle but you haven't got room for it, but you'd like to do something different with it, build this build. Actually, if you want to do the more polished version and get the additional parts, they're not that much more expensive, they're quite easy to get, so it's going to be really helpful and worthwhile getting. As I said, if you do get those additional parts, they don't include the pavement that it blends in with the other modular, so you probably will have to get those additionally too if you want to do that. But overall, I really think Brickative has been super creative in creating this modular old build. It's generally one of my favourite buildings, and I really like the yellow and reddish brown. It's just not something that we have seen in any of the other modulars, so it's going to really stand out, but like in a good way, I think, in the city. I don't know how long it's going to be sitting in my city, but definitely for now, and it just blows my mind that people can design stuff like this. It's just so amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Please don't forget to check out Brickative's Rebrickable. There is a lot of really cool old builds for different sets as well. He's done some for Friends sets. He's going to be doing one for the City of Lanterns. Like, he is just really great with his old builds, but also he's done some original MOCs, which are stunning. So please go check out his Rebrickable, link in the description down below. I am a huge fan. And yeah, let me know what you think. What are you going to be building next? Are you doing any old builds? Have you done any old builds? And I will speak to you really very soon. See you all in the next video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye! Howdo! You are so lucky you can't see my desk right now because it's literally chaos. Literally chaos because updates to the city are happening.